We'll take another story now. Well, some positive news. Following the outcry raised by activist Martin Soche, popularly known as Very Dark Man, who highlighted the plight of young Nigerian girls trafficked to Ivory Coast, the chairman of Air Peace Airlines, Dr. Allen Onyema, over the weekend pledged to repatriate the girls free of charge, offering free flights, medical care and support services. In a press statement, Dr. Onyema condemned the inhumane act of trafficking young Nigerian girls globally and called for collective action, urging the Nigerian embassy in Côte d'Ivoire to identify and gather the victims for repatriation. Onyema further appealed to the federal government to take responsibility for their rehabilitation and education. I mean, this is such a laudable cause by Air Peace Airlines. I mean, this is not the first time that we are seeing that they've always come into the aid of Nigerians, be it in Sudan, South Africa. We have seen this sort of repatriation. So kudos to them. I know that the airline plans to send the girls to Dutchess International Hospital in Ikeja for free medical examinations and treatment. Let me take some tweets because obviously there was conversation on social media as regards, especially with the responsibility of the federal government. We took this story last week. This is from Michael, who wrote, "Great initiative by Air Peace. This act of compassion and responsibility towards our trafficked girls is truly commendable. It's heartwarming to see corporate entities step up to address such a critical humanitarian issue. Thank you, Air Peace." Another user wrote, "The Nigerian government should really be ashamed that a private individual is doing all this. All those politicians, all they know is embezzlement of funds, and yet some Nigerians will come out to cite them and cascade VDM. Some Nigerians don't really deserve the internet." I mean, we did see this attack on Very Dark Man, who we applaud, really, because he actually went out there with his own personal funds, did the investigation, and now we have, a private entity like Air Peace saying that he is ready to bring the girls back. Without VDM, we will not have known the story. I mean, of course, Arise highlighted the issue as well here on the show.
I believe it's John F. Kennedy who said that it's not what my country can do for me, but what I can do for my country. I paraphrase, and I think It's beautiful to see patriots. Patriots are people who do not wait for the system to work. They are people who step forward in a time of need where they can see that there's an intervention, a change that they can make. They do it without looking for reward, without looking for favor. And so for that, to Air Peace, to Very Dark Man, they need to be congratulated and emulated as well. In our own little jurisdictions, there's a contribution that we can make, and I hope that we can. However, the fundamental issues still need to be addressed. Absolutely. There is the issue of porous borders that needs to be highlighted. When we look at these young girls who are being trafficked across the border, there's the issue of course, insecurity, poverty. This is multifaceted. And until we see the root cause of these types of scourges being addressed, we're not going to move forward. So also, as much as we have patriotic Nigerians who are ready to come and advocate and look for solutions, we also need to be patriotic enough to find lasting, sustainable solutions. Look at the vulnerability of those young girls. Can't tell how old they are, but they're certainly not teenagers based off of what I see. What becomes of their futures? Yes, they shall be rehabilitated and so forth, but we need to build a country where we're not constantly rehabilitating people from the trauma of Nigeria happening to them. Very, very important. Very quickly, OG, I know you want to move on very quickly before we go. I just want to touch on transparency and how important it is for our leaders to be transparent. I think most people celebrated that this, all of the files concerning this case with the president is coming to, is being published and all things are being redacted because it speaks to the issue of transparency and how important it is to accountability. Donald Trump yesterday publicized his medical report. They even showed his cholesterol levels, they showed his blood pressure, there was his white blood cell count, it was all there. And it's nothing, we've never seen anything like it before. So I love transparency, even going to that stage where if we can see our leaders' medical reports published as well, that's the level of transparency that we'd like to get.
I like that point. It may, you never know.
I personally started the chart for every presidential candidate to release their medical reports. Nobody listened. I challenge all of them again.
Well, let's go back to the story of, Air Peace. And, I'd like to just really commend the airline. Absolutely. Kudos to Very Dark Man, of course, as well. Very Dark Man and Dr. Allen Onyema of Air Peace. We'll take another story now. The federal government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, over the weekend, faulted a social media post by the United States Embassy in Abuja and testimonies of Catholic priests at a U.S. congressional hearing regarding the killing of Christians in Benue State. Well, on March 12th, Catholic clerics Bishop Wilfred Anegbe and Reverend Father Julia testified before a U.S. committee saying that the experience of Nigerian Christians in Benue State can be summed up as that of a church under Islamist extermination. Bishop Anegbe stated that his diocese in Benue has lost about 15 parishes between 2018 and 2024, with about 140 priests kidnapped or killed and many churches destroyed by Fulani militants. The priests further criticized the Nigerian authorities for failing to stop the killings, while following their testimony, the Catholic priests alleged threats against them. In response, the U.S. mission in Nigeria, in a post on X, stated that it was disturbed by the reports of intimidation and threats against the religious leaders. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a statement, described the claims as inaccurate and misrepresentative of the country's efforts in tackling insecurity. The federal government further reiterated its commitment to protecting the lives and property of all citizens, regardless of their faith or ethnicity, and pledged to investigate any reports of threats or intimidation against the religious leaders. I mean, this was a story that was circulating over the weekend. I know that the religious leaders claimed that, the Fulani militants were killing and displacing Christians. This has been going on for what? Decades now. And, they've come out, they've gone to the U.S. Congress to, state their plight. But now we're seeing the federal government saying that, it's a misrepresentation of the facts, it's an act of terrorism, and that they've been doing everything that, they can to protect the people of Benue, the Christians in Benue State.
With due respect, that was a very lame response by the federal government. Very, very lame. They said nothing. Yeah, we've been fixing insecurity. The question I want to ask the federal government is, are the hard evidences by that Catholic cleric, are they wrong?
There were hard evidences.
Hard evidence. It happened to him. He said they've lost 15 parish. Do they have any other empirical fact to the contrary? No. It's just a sweeping generalization that we find against security. And you see, the federal government makes this mistake a lot. When you criticize against insecurity, they start to vituperate, they start to jakmuro. It scratches them like werekwe. You see, the problem is, this report is not only talking about the Tinubu administration. It's talking about from 2018.
Correct.
So Buhari administration is also there, but they take it on because they're the government party, don't they? Just like how the Minister of Information had a tiff with the governor of Borno State. You can't know what's happening on ground in Borno like the governor. So please, it's best they take in the criticism and they investigate. The question is it happening? We've seen a lot of kidnapping and killing of Catholic clerics in every part of the country, including Benue. Most of these cases are even underreported. The state of insecurity is so rampant that most of the cases are underreported. Most of them don't even get to major news networks. Take, for instance, what happened in Safi yesterday. On Saturday night, was probably only reported maybe by the likes of, the ones that Daily Trust are able to pick up and other media. So we must do something against the high level of insecurity. That's why people have called it ethnic cleansing. Deliberately targeting a group of people for their land, for resource, which is sad, and also across religious lines. But I don't want it to be majorly about religion, because on the flip side, we also have Muslims that have been attacked.
Yes.
As Christians have been attacked, Muslims have also been attacked. But the government should be able to introspect. Look at it, Benue used to be the breadbasket of the nation.
That's it.
What is happening? The same thing happened when the former governor of Benue had to set up his own local, vigilante group to be able to fight. We covered it live a lot here.
Well, let me tie this in together. Well, let's now take a look at this poem by a young woman from Benue State, decrying the herdsmen's killings that have claimed several lives and displaced thousands. She urged the federal government to intervene and stop the killings. Here's a snippet.
The food basket of the nation is now blood basket of the nation. The land once lush with green, now hush and grim, filled with sullen faces with no hope to survive the day, like arid ground in want of rain. Pain is plain. It's daybreak. Folks are supposed to go to their farms, but farms are not the safest places to be. It's nightfall. It's heartbreak. It's heartache. Over destroyed homes, destroyed crops, slaughtered brethren, bloodshed. Motherland is not the safest place to be. The land loud with violence, flooding with the blood of the young and old alike. Great sons fall like autumn leaves, dead bodies scatter like mustard seeds. Homes empty out, while IDP camps flood their advance with the young and old, all in their ranks. Living is worse than a brutal crime. They say tough times don't last. Tell that to the people of Goma, who have watched herdsmen turn gunmen. Tell that to the people of Flora. Tell that to the people of Kandi, who have had bullets sprayed on them like rainwater, who have been changed to nothing but chicken for slaughter. Tell that to youths who this have cost them futures. Tell that to people who do nothing but levitate, have their foot in suspended mid-air, meditate on the next baba blast of the trigger or the next pointing of a finger to the voice of a brother. Mila, never know this ever stop. Stop Benue killings. Let the lives of kinsmen cease to be pawns in the game of politics. Stop Benue killings. Let motherland be home again.
I hope that this video resonates with the security agencies, the federal government of Nigeria. This young girl's poem really touched my heart, and I thought it was important to highlight it. You have to stop the Benue killings, stop the killings in Plateau, stop the killings in the southeast, stop the killings across Nigeria. it is really becoming a very, very worrying situation. May their souls rest in peace.